Hey,
What you doing, dude? What you doing?
Skype took a flying header into a pool with no water in it, man. That's what happened. Yeah, and had to restart it, reset it, and all that. So,
Man,
thanks for opening the show.
all these people were waiting for you. They get my southern voice, my southern freakish voice, and you're messing around. Man, dude, come on, man. You got to be more professional. I'm sitting here hyping you up, and you're late to your own show, Chuck.
Now, this is the first time this has ever happened. You know that, right? what, what is it? What does it mean when your software goes into revolt against you? Oh man. So good evening, everybody. Sorry I am late to the party. Wow. Strange. I'm telling you, very strange. In fact, the normal procedure about 5 minutes before we go to air, in case anybody doesn't know this, is that we begin connecting everything. And at that very moment, that's when this happened. So it took me all this time to get back around. Look, enough of that. Thanks for opening the show, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Oh, man. So, yeah, you are listening to the Ochelli Effect, despite the fact that Daniel Lewis Crumpton did open it. Of course, Daniel's an author, and I'm sure he's already mentioned downloadedcontent.com, which is the new site that you are writing a great deal of material out of. But there's going to be a lot more than just the written word over at Downloaded Content. There's other multimedia experiences upcoming, right?
Actually, dude, I haven't even mentioned my website. I was just promoting you, bruh. But
Well,
thanks for throwing me a fish. I like that.
listen, I appreciate it. Also, the author of Then Came the Flood, which is available out there. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
Uh,
I wrote Then Came the Flood. You guys can get that on Amazon, or you can go to downloadedcontent.com and read the first 3 chapters for free before you buy it. Wrote a poetry book. Not too happy with how it was put out there, so don't even worry about that one. And right now I am home based at downloadedcontent.com, which is you'd have to go to the about page to really understand it. And I have a podcast coming out the day after your documentary comes out, which is actually how I opened the show because I love ya.
well, I do appreciate that. Now, here's the fun part about this documentary, guys. I have not seen it. Um, uh, Most people, when they are involved in some sort of filmmaking thing, even if they just have a segment that's being inserted into some greater documentary. They want to see their own footage. They want to know what they looked like. I'm not one of these guys. Um, I have no idea actually what you even filmed or retained or what's going in. I'm not sure. I mean, I have a general idea because I'm sort of aware of, well, when I was in your proximity and you might have had a device. But outside of that, I have no idea what's actually in this thing. I haven't seen the layout. I got a brief glimpse of what the opening might look like, and I think that's actually changed now.
Mm.
And of course, we all got to see this little thing you did with the credits on Facebook, which I thought was really funny. It's on YouTube now too, isn't it?
Yeah, that was always been one of my life dreams is to have credits to a movie and me be every name.
Yeah, every I love it though, and I made the point right away. I'm not even listed as talent in the credits. Thank you, but every name there, and I mean it's just funny. You got to watch it because it's like costume design, boom mic operator, etc. Everything, kind of
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, but it was true. It was true. But
No,
no, as a
yeah,
matter of fact, I'll tell you because what I was telling your audience before you came on is that this was, for me and you, it was a real bonding experience because you stayed with me for a little bit, and we actually, we know each other more than most people really realize, and we formed a bond that's closer than brothers. You know what I mean? And it was at a critical moment in both of our lives. So there's going to be so many behind the scenes laughs for just me and you. But at the end of those credits, I put that catering was by Shirley from Flash Foods down the street and myself. Okay, now let me tell your audience this crap. This is hilarious. Okay, there's a Flash Foods down the street. At third shift, me and Chuck, late at night, we're night owls. We have to go get coffee with these little caffeine shots called Stokes or Stocks or whatever.
No,
Just
no, one
late.
second. Let me just interject one thing here. In case you're from different parts of the country, a Flash Foods is akin to the like the 7-Eleven gas station or the Shell gas station, where you have like a little mini mart connected to. I mean, they used to have these Exxon food marts or Tiger marts, stuff like that. I think Mobile does On the Run, just to give people an idea that this is one of those co-branded experiences where you step into a C-store along with gas pumps, and that is the design of the place. And there's a pretty good amount of these flash food joints
Yeah,
in the state of Georgia. Just for people who are sitting there going, "What the hell's the flash foods?" I wanted to put that in. Thanks.
yeah, Flash Foods. Yeah, it's pretty big here in the South, but it's a gas station, a 7-Eleven, whatever. But there is this older black lady that works third shift, and her name is Shirley. Okay,
Yes.
and I mean, I don't know about you, Chuck, but I know that every time I went in there and every time we went in there together, uh, she was just horrific. She was horrible. She was a bitter woman. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was
It's
the way that we looked or, what it was. I'm not quite sure. And you know me, I mean, I've embarrassed you in public before because I'm just a character out in public. I like messing with people's heads. But it didn't work with this chick. I mean, stonewall, you're not getting through. She is not going to crack a smile. That's it. I mean, she just takes your stuff, rings you up later. You just stand there awkwardly and she stares at you or you leave. That's it. So anyway, I'm thinking about those titles last night and I'm like, you know what? About 12:02, 12:03, I go down to the Flash Foods to go get me some coffee. And I'm like, oh, this is hilarious. Shirley's working, right? And so I go in, there's no coffee. All the coffee pots are like being washed. And I got my refill cup and I'm like, ah, crap. And she goes, well, I'm washing the pots. You're just going to have to wait a minute. She's being real bitter. I was like, oh, okay, great. I got to make this chick smile. There's something. I got to do something. I got to come on and talk to Chuck about it and let him know that there's closure with her for the three of us, really, for the three of us.
Well, I've got my own personal stories about Shirley too, because when I went in there by myself, it's so funny, man. She's really, you're not doing the whole thing justice. Hang on.
All right, please help.
Because look, you're talking about this situation. I've gone in there at midnight too, when the coffee pots are, being cleaned and everything else. And if you ask her more than one question, like, okay, there's a couple of different kinds of coffee there. There's like a house blend, Colombian, whatever, blah. All right. So you go to get one kind or the other, and that's empty. And you say, okay, this is empty. She'll say to you, well, I'm cleaning that pot. And that's it. Like, cut and dry. Not like she's even busy at the moment. She just doesn't really want to engage in the conversation.
Yeah.
So then, don't make the mistake of going to ask about the other pot of coffee, because it's like, well, that only refers to the Colombian. How about the house blend? And then you say to her, hey, is the house blend empty too? And she'll get angry.
Yeah.
Like, I just told you I was washing the coffee pots. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is the thing. Like, I mean, don't ask a question.
Yeah. She's
Don't, and it's not it. And again, this is not a racial thing. I don't think. She's just
bitter
upset
about.
to be there.
Yeah.
Now, a funny side note. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I went to another Flash Foods. And I said, I was there at about the same time of night that Shirley's usually working. And the lady was cool with me. She was all joking with me and everything else. And I said, I go to this other Flash Foods, in Warner Robins. And there's this lady there at night, and I didn't really describe her. I just said, there's this lady there at night, and she's always in a bad mood. And I'm so glad that you're happy, because I'm dragging myself in here late at night for a reason, and you don't got to necessarily always be happy when you see somebody at work. I get that, but at least you're pleasant. I want to thank you for that. I wanted to point that out to that person that was there, letting me purchase coffee.
Mhm.
Right. What do you think happened, Daniel? Guess.
She's gonna say, you talking about Shirley?
That's exactly what she said. She
Are
said,
you
"You talking
serious?
about Shirley?" I said, "Yeah, I'm talking about Shirley." I said, "I didn't want to mention names, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about." She's like, "Oh, I know. I heard about her."
Oh
I
my
said,
God. She's crossing
so,
counties with her bitterness, man. That's
yeah,
not cool.
I wanted to let you know it's not just you and me. It's not like,
Okay.
just Daniel and Chuck are picking on this woman or something. It's
Okay.
too funny. But either way, Shirley, if you're listening somehow by some strange coincidence, which I don't think you would be, but if you were, I want you to know we love you anyway. Uh,
Actually, she might be, because she actually might be. No, no, no. In all seriousness, because when I was down there last night, right? She saw me come in. She's like, "Oh, it's that dude," whatever. He's gonna say something weird and awkward and whatever. So she had that whole attitude, and I was sitting there thinking I had to go sit out in the truck for a minute while she cleaned. While 45 minutes goes by and she's cleaning the coffee pots, and I come back in when I see something happening, something brewing. And I said, okay, all right, man. Just I don't know what it is, but I got to get this chick to smile. And so when I went, I put my coffee cup up there. She did the same thing. You got a flashcard? I'm like, no, it got stole. Again. And so she rang me up, and I said, hey, and it kind of broke her out of her state. I said, did you know that you're in a movie? And she says, huh? I said, you're in a movie. Did you know that? And she kind of cocked her head a little bit. She said, what you talking about? I said, well, I'm now a documentary filmmaker, because I get that hat now, right? I said, and I actually put your name in the credits for catering, okay? And dude, I had to take like 3 steps back because on her face, her solemn, sullen, stiff, concrete cinder block face, shit started to happen in the creaks of her mouth, and dust like fell, and it was insane. She smiled, this huge smile, and her eyes became two suns, like from Star Wars or something. And now I am sugar honey baby doll when I come into Flash Foods, thanks to your documentary. So she, yeah, she might actually be listening.
Well, if you are, Shirley, look, we loved you even when you weren't being nice to us. But look, if you're going to be happier now because somebody at least recognized you and acknowledged you, it's great. Let me give a little background, though, for people that might not understand this. You ever been in a store, and I'm talking to the listener now, you ever been in a store and somebody comes up to you and seems to begin a conversation midway, is absolutely involved in something that's happening, like you're picking something off the shelf, you're having a conversation with somebody next to you that you brought with you to the store. Let's just say it's your partner, whatever, and you're having a discussion. Daniel is exactly the guy who walks up to you and gets in your discussion all of a sudden, bringing up different points. Like you're sitting there talking about, French fries and which bag is better to buy and whatever. And, maybe there's a little tension between you. Daniel will walk up to you and go, well, with the GMOs and those French fries, just mid-sentence, not hello, not how you doing, not hi, my name is Daniel even. Well, maybe that'll come later. But he will just sit there and interject himself, and it's really funny because I've never seen, I mean, I've seen people do this, but in the South, it's interesting because they don't have the reaction they would have in the Northeast, which would be like, who the hell are you?
All right, all right,
Um,
all right. Okay, just for cultural clash, because having you here in Georgia was great for me, because I learned something about you Yankees.
yes.
And any lesser Southerner wouldn't have picked this up, but you Yankees, man, if there is one flaw, one thing wrong, one thing to condemn or say negatively, you guys will do that crap, even if it's like from God. But in that gesture is the actual compliment. Does that make any sense?
I'm not following you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Explain, break it down for the
Okay.
Yankee.
All right.
Yeah.
For the Yankee, for the Yankee, Chuck Ochelli, let's hypothetically say that he's been crawling across the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. He's completely dehydrated. His mouth is filled with sand. He crawls up to my feet and rasps out the word water. Okay? And so I give him this big gauntlet, this crystal pristine gauntlet of alkaline water from the highest peaks of the highest mountains, struck by the lightning of the gods. The water is so crisp, so clear. It is just so replenishing. Chuck will drink it and then he'll go, it's all right. And that
Yeah.
how was your water, Chuck? It's all right. And it's like, you know, other Southerners would be offended at you. And I'm just looking at him like, this fucking, excuse my language, this Yankee, jeez, he was. But anyway, that's one cultural clash that I didn't realize that to a Yankee, insults are compliments.
Well, and then we wound up having to explain. Well, that's another cultural problem. It's not just a Yankee thing, mind you. It's an Italian thing.
Okay, cool. All right.
You got to remember, if you break somebody's balls, it means you actually are paying attention to them.
Yeah.
So you care about them. And here we go. Yeah, you heard that accent. I'm sorry. But that's the truth.
If they only knew.
If they only knew, which is funny because you got a piece of footage. Gee, I wonder if any of that made it in. Where
it didn't. It actually didn't, man. I'm
Okay.
sorry. We're going to have to save that for later. What he's talking about, people, is what I call the bada bing footage, which is if you go a certain amount of time with no sleep and you're just on caffeine, you go to places. You go places. And me, him, and another person, for I don't know how long, just no drugs were involved at all. You just have to take my word for it. For I don't know how long, became Italian mobsters sitting underneath my carport, having full-on conversations and becoming these characters. It took like 2 or 3 days to break it. And you got Chuck over there, bada bing, I take him out to the back and whack him. I mean, fluent mafia. Okay. And
Okay, but and you know why? It's because I was trying to explain to you that there's a different way of communicating. This is how it started. There was a different way of communicating. Often when somebody says, here was the key phrase that I think lit it, with all due respect.
mm-hmm.
Okay, with all due respect is not necessarily with all due respect.
But you see,
And, yeah.
It prefaces nonviolence or retaliation for anything that is said after that statement.
Well, right. See, now we'll translate for those of you who might think that was a little too, intellectually complex. Here we go. If I'm going to insult you, and I preface it with all due respect, automatically what's implied there is not really necessarily my intent. My intent could vary. But now you've been told you're not really allowed to get too mad at this. You can't turn around and punch me in the face if I just insulted your mom. Because with all due respect,
your mama's a whore.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that harsh, but well, maybe it is.
Yeah, it was pretty harsh stuff. So
it was harsh stuff, and it was interesting trying to explain this to these guys who were going, I don't understand how you can communicate that way. And so I just kind of fell into the kind of, Italianese, let's call it, and started doing this, and then everybody started following, and it was a pretty funny thing.
Yeah, we had a good time doing it, and we filmed it, and the film is somewhere, and maybe one day it'll come out, but it didn't come out with Nutshell, sorry. But that's okay. But okay, so I had that cultural exchange. Now, if you want to tell the audience what happened at Walmart with the issue that you know what I'm talking about. I think it was the first time you and I went out in public together at Walmart, and there was a young black kid hitting his mom. If you want to tell them that, go ahead, because for all the Yankees, they'll get to hear the other cultural clash.
Well, okay, so here you go. Again, if you're in the Northeast, you're going to say, what in the hell is he doing? But here's what happened. We go into a Walmart and we're walking around, and like Daniel just described, there's like a kid who's maybe, I don't know, 4 years old, 5 years old. Let's just imagine a 5-year-old for the sake of the discussion, standing up in a shopping cart and really, kind of interacting with his mom, and I'm not paying much attention to it. It's just part of the background noise that you shut out when you're going through the Walmart. But Daniel obviously decided to train his sights on the situation. And he goes right over to the kid who is at this point, yes, indeed, striking his mom, trying to get her attention. She's just kind of putting up with him. It looks like, anyway. That's, what I'm taking from my observation. But Daniel walks right up, and again, see, no introduction, no anything, just sits there, locks eyes with the kid, and explains, that's how you go to jail, right there. Is beating up on, beating up on your mama and beating up on women. That's a problem. You understand that? Because you're going to wind up in jail. The 5-year-old, stunned, stops everything he's doing, all the noise he was making and whatever else, and steps back.
I told that kid, I said, "You're gonna end up on paper, boy. You don't want to be on paper."
Oh, that was the phrase. You're gonna end up on paper. Which I'm imagining means you got charges, and yeah, okay.
I'm telling this 4-year-old kid, I said, they're gonna put you on probie, and then right before you get off probie, they're gonna piss test your ass, and then you're going right back to probie. You're gonna stay in the same system for the rest of your life. You keep hitting women like that. Go ahead.
Okay, now I missed that part of it because I was so stunned that you even walked up and did this. Now, okay, anybody again in the Northeast is sitting there going, okay, so Daniel next gets struck with a stick, gets told to mind his own business, gets hit by this woman, gets told off. There's a scene that ensues, right? Wrong. Um, it was I was astounded more not Daniel doing stuff and kind of being funny. I mean, we sat there one day talking to a representative from Cox Cable, okay, where Daniel is continuously focusing on the word Cox during the conversation. And so you get your Cox in there, right? I mean, he's saying to the guy, and the guy with a straight face is totally unaware of what it is that and Daniel will do that. Okay, so outrageous behavior and kind of being a clown is sort of part
Well,
of what Daniel does.
yeah,
Now,
people
but
psychology, people psychology is my playground.
well, yeah, and it's but this is the fun part. Like I said, everybody in the Northeast would be saying, "So did he get slapped, shot, told off, arrested? What happened?" Well, tell everybody what happened, Daniel.
From my recollection, the boy kind of looked at me, and then the parents started, or the mom started laughing. The chicks that were there started laughing, like, "Yeah, that's what he said. You better listen to him." You know, to
Exactly.
yeah, you don't want to be on paper. You don't want to be wearing orange, boy. And they kind of confirmed what I was saying. Now, in defense of myself, and yes, I'm very much aware that racism exists in the South. I'm not one of those people who deny it. There are places where it exists. I got to experience that firsthand, working for several years in deep South places with very close black friends of mine, or African American, or whatever. People of darker skin than me. So I do know that racism exists, but. Uh, Thankfully, like in this situation here, it never occurred to me that, oh, it's a little black boy, you know, that that because I don't see race there in my experience. There's no such thing as races. There are different culture groups, but there's no such thing as races. You know what I mean? So I just don't see it. I don't operate that way. And so it never occurred to me, oh, well, I can't say that to them because their skin's a little bit darker, but if a little white boy or Irish kid comes by, I can say it. It just never entered into my consciousness.
Oh
But
no, and in all fairness, my observations do tell me that you don't care what the race of the
no,
person is
I don't
that
give a
you're
crap.
approaching. It so happens that more often you are approaching people that have darker skin because, quite honestly, that's what the pool presents. In certain public places, there are more people with darker skin than some of the places we went. But
And I,
honestly, it's not as though you were targeting them specifically for that reason.
mm-mm,
You would do this to anybody. The
pretty much.
there was Indian guys waiting online to buy stuff. I've seen you interact with. I've seen people that you would definitely qualify as whitest of white bread. Same thing. The woman with the tattoo, the one time, to my recollection, I think she was fairly pale skinned.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't really sure of what her ethnic background was, but I definitely would say she was not African American, black, whatever it is. So it's not as though you only approach black people. It's
No.
just that there is no thought given to it. That's really what's amazing to me. And again, even though the South is categorized as often categorized, I should say, as the more racist hotbed in the country and all that, if you think about it,
Well,
the
did
fact
you?
that we can't approach each other in the Northeast, the fact that we have that greater tension in the Northeast where, we have a self-segregation that occurs in socialization is more relevant to the conversation than anything here. Because here we are, well, in the North, we don't do that. Yeah, in the North, we don't really talk to each other much either. And when we do, it's like a very obvious, loud, noisy thing. Um, but,
Yeah, I was gonna
when you
say.
don't,
I was gonna ask you because I haven't been, too much out of the South, but as a Northerner, you're here in the South now. Do you see more racism down here than you did up north?
No, it takes on a different a different fake. It's got a different way of behaving.
Hmm.
The same thing exists. It's just that some things are more quiet here, some things are less quiet here.
Hmm.
There is a general, and I noted this before when I was in other southern states, that there is a greater desire to remain polite in public, which regardless of racial lines in the Northeast, that's not there. There is a higher tension level in general that in my own home area, which I actually had a bit of a withdrawal from
Hmm.
when I came to the South, actually, which is strange. But meanwhile, we're getting into the clash of cultures, the discussion of race, all this other odd stuff. Um, and well, it is relevant. It is absolutely relevant because the more that you interact with others and the more you discover some of the gifts they have, whether it be to throw the non-combative Molotov cocktail of socialization at people in a Walmart, or you know,
Hmm.
to attempt to provoke brush fires to be lit by oneself in their own minds, one way or another. There's lots of different ways to come at this, and I think a little bit of uh, a little bit of
Well,
natural interaction with people is something that's good to promote. So,
well, here,
on the whole, although it's uncomfortable to experience it with you sometimes, I gotta say it's been a good thing. So
yeah.
there you
Oh, thank you all. I appreciate that. But one of the things that I think I know me and you off the air, and me and a lot of other people have been discussing lately is, alternative media and where it's going, and the whole concept of doom and gloom, and you know, whatever your proclivity of conspiracy theory on the final solution of how it's all supposed to end, it's typically negative in alternative media. And when me and you talk, and me and other genuine people talk, we're like, I just think that life is good, that there's a reason, just being here and experiencing life is a pretty good thing. And so it can't all be bad, right? But I know that because of the interconnectivity, especially since the internet, that we all have into, I mean, you walk into Walmart or any other place and you'll see 80% of the people there staring into their phone, completely disconnected.
go.
And a lot of people who used to be in my social circles were big Alex Jones guys, and they were just, it was like being in their company started to feel like pulling teeth. You know what I mean? Like we're trying to have a cup of coffee, just enjoy each other's company. It's like they're putting fluoride in the water, and Goldman Sachs, and it's just like, man, have you guys like walked to the park today and looked at a flower? There's good things to pay attention to as well. And I like, when I step outside of the virtual world and go out into the world, I like to break people's states. And everybody around where I'm at seems to be stuck in some type of a state, some predominant emotion or story or script that they think that there's no escape from. And if my goofy ass can just walk up to you while you're going through the worst period of your life and say something that makes you have a brain freeze or makes you laugh or chuckle or smile. And like, there's a quote that you said in the documentary that's going to come out, is that you change the trajectory of every single life you come in contact with, for the good, for the neutral, or for the better. And that's true. And I just like to, if I can, go out into the world with that in mind and try to set people's paths in a positive way. And if it's through me looking like an asshole, a goofball, fine. It doesn't bother me, you know. And I'm actually writing an article. I don't know if it'll be out tonight or tomorrow. It'll be called something to the effect of "Why Trump is Great for America" by a non-Trump supporter. And I said
Hmm.
this in another podcast. And I don't want to get into Trump, okay? Because I don't care. But and I think we've talked about it off air, uh, with politics, and because I used to be a huge political activist, and I had to hang my spurs up, man. I had to, because I saw it turning into something that's just not me. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. You were definitely on board with the Ron Paul thing. You were looking at, hey, look, we need to challenge the Fed. We need to get some of these people who have obviously not been serving their constituents to answer for that. You were going to Republican meetings. Here we go, coming from the GOP side of it, but with the Ron Paul sort of concept in mind. And literally, I mean, you were an activist on things that I don't consider to be so wrapped up in the two-party system, like why the hell does my small town need an armored attack vehicle?
Yeah.
Things like this. Why is it that that the mayor behaves this way in public, but yet there's secret meetings? This is not good
Yeah.
for the town.
Yeah.
No, I just want to give people a glimpse of what you're talking about when you say you were involved in politics a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Looking to affect things in a greater way, but looking at your own local situation primarily. And this is something that we often encourage people to do. But at the end of the day, and at the end of the process you went through, well, you decided to hang up your spurs. Why?
Well, I mean, and like you were saying, yeah, like when the cops here in Georgia blew up a kid through a flashbang and blew the kid up, me and Patrick and some of the other cats from in the car, we were there. We would skip all over the state on a local level. But why I had it was after Oregon, really. It was after the Oregon thing, and we've talked ad nauseum about it. But I just said, uh, this whole liberty thing, this whole activism thing it's at a very critical fork in the road where it's going to go one of two ways after Oregon. And I think that at this point in my life, I need to do what, say, Thomas Paine did and be the writer. Be the guy who tells the story, because I didn't agree with everything that happened at Oregon, and I certainly don't agree with everything that's been going on with what I've been paying attention to in the liberty movement since then. And I guess basically the reason I hung my spurs up on that is because the joy of doing it went away. And if that's not there, no matter what your cause is, if there's no joy in it, you need to hang your spurs up. There are other people who are younger, more passionate, more capable, with enough joy to make you're just going to be dead weight. And so I decided to hang my spurs up, and it looks like I was right, because I stopped paying attention to the news when Donald Trump was announced a front runner for the Republican Party, a front runner. At that point, I said, "This is This is a joke. If this is not the most obvious thing to the American people, that our form of government is a frickin' game show. It is a game show. A game show host is a front runner for a conservative party, quote unquote conservative. So when they came out and said he's the front runner, I said this is going to go one of two ways. One, this is just total justification for a logical choice for Hillary Clinton. How could any right-minded person vote for Donald frickin' Trump, when you have somebody who, by comparison, is more sane than Hillary Clinton? It's either going to go that way, or they're just going to go all in, push all their chips to the middle of the table, and go, let's see how many of these people are really just going to stay asleep forever, and we'll make Trump president. And that's what happened. And so, you're dealing. My way of revolting against the government is changing the channel, because it is a reality TV show. It really, really is. If and I do believe that we're at a critical moment in human evolution. I've always said that. But if that's really going to happen, it's got to happen at your local level. It's got to happen in your community. You start there. And everybody who's in this movement, quote unquote, or is getting out of this movement, knows that the sheriff has more power than the federal government. So it's not that difficult to get a sheriff in office that'll say, screw the federal government. We're just going to do it peacefully here, in our own local area, and we'll take care of it. That's really the solution. It's not what those other cats said on some other networks about going and getting a whole bunch of ammo boxes and taking the government by force. Oh, shut up. You just get a more violent government, douche. You know what I mean? You just
Yeah.
get and they think this makes some sense. We're going to overthrow them with a whole lot of violence, and then we'll be noble and just in how we rule. Get out of here, man. Get out
Well,
of here.
that's always amazed me is anybody who encourages violence. Look, if you win in a violent contest, all you have proven is that you are the most violent, and that's what you want to be over your head, I guess, the most violent. And here we go. I think what's missing from the equation is that we need to encourage people to not only change the channel on the TV, on the device, on their, whatever, but we need to encourage them to change the channels in their minds and consider other things. You're talking about how outside of the virtual world, there's a great deal more to the planet, than sitting there and being involved in arguments and, worrying about what this guy who posted on your Facebook wall said. There's a lot more to be done. There's a lot more to experience. And if you don't, well, who do you have to blame but yourself? But if we don't start to encourage others to at least consider to take their own paths, to actually, not just look at who's the leader, who's the ruler, but be their own leaders of their own minds,
Mm-hmm.
then what good are we doing? That has always been my question.
Yeah. Well, let me
And
ask.
I think you just were speaking to that directly. So it's not just about the sheriff; it's about the minds of people
Yeah.
that need to be reached. And that's why, again, not only is it entertaining to watch what you do in public and breaking people's mindsets, but it's also a valid thing to do. I think it's absolutely necessary at this point in time, given all of the programming that is out there that people have been sucked into. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, laughter's the best medicine. That's why what I was getting to with Trump in this article I'm going to write, I'll summate it for you, is that basically, look, especially since 9/11, because that's the big traumatic moment for us as a nation, this country has been in a bad way, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It really, really has, and I get it. We're war weary. We're tired of it as a people. We really, really are. And there's been so much venom and vitriol and just horrible crap that honestly, if there's one thing that Trump's really going to do for this country is make us laugh our asses off every single day. He's gonna give Comedy Central stock is gonna go through the roof. Saturday Night Live is going to win so many Emmys because he's gonna make this country laugh again. At how big of a douchebag our president is, man. And I hate to say this, but what is it whenever you wake up and you kind of respect Vladimir Putin more than your own president? You know what I mean? What does it say about this country and this generation's mentality when Vladimir Putin is more respectable and more suave and more, leadership minded, I suppose, than your own president? The land of the free and the home of the brave. That's sad. Geopolitics aside, whatever. But I look up to the way he handles himself more than Trump. Trump's up at 3 o'clock in the morning tweeting to Jon Stewart. Give me a break. you know, for real. You're tweeting back. You're having a Twitter war with a comedy show host, douche. So he's gonna
Yeah.
make us. He's gonna make us laugh, and that's great. Great. While we're laughing at the government, maybe we'll also ignore them. Ignore what we find to be humorously stupid. Ignore it. And then when we start to ignore the government and just, look, dude, in the state of Georgia, if you go in there, you buy tobacco or alcohol or whatever, by law, they're supposed to card you. 80% of the time, that don't happen. Now, it's a law, but you got two grown, responsible adults who are awake and aware, and they're like, what? Why do I need to see a picture of the face in front of me that I can clearly tell is over the age of 21 to sell you this shit? You know? And it's just
Mm.
going to go down like that. So thank you, Trump, man. Make us laugh. We really, really need it. This country needs to laugh at itself. We need to
Well,
start
and
laughing at ourselves.
you know what's making me laugh though is people looking back now. Some of them starting to think critically about what's before them as the alleged representative, because it's not just our laughter that's been encouraged. The rest of the world gets to laugh at us too. But there are people that are actually sitting there and saying things like, "Do you remember when George W. Bush put this so eloquently?" Insert quote any which way you want. I've heard it several times. I'm waiting for this to become a big thing because I can't reconcile that. This guy couldn't. I mean, wait, don't fool me once. Don't get fooled again. Uh, it wasn't even that good. I mean, the guy couldn't speak. He couldn't read. At least Obama was slick with the teleprompter, which
Yeah,
I'm no fan of him. But he was, at least he could deliver it. He would say his words
yeah.
exactly the way he wanted to, and
He
this is
remind
the way it happens.
he,
Yeah,
re-
go ahead.
he reminded me of that Parker Brothers game back in the '80s, Mr. Game Show. I don't, maybe it was Milton Bradley, I don't know, but it was like a talk show host robot. That was Obama to me. He was like a Mr. Talk Show. Yeah, he
Oh
delivered.
yeah,
Yeah, but it was great because I didn't watch the inauguration or any of that crap. But I just love seeing my Facebook feed the next day with like images of George W. Bush trying to put on a poncho,
right.
and and all these memes of liberals screaming, and it's a mashup of like Darth Vader screaming no, Family Guy screaming no. And it's like this is great. This is absolutely great. This country is gonna laugh at itself. This is so funny. It's funny.
I,
I mean,
I, I hope you're right. I hope there's a lot more laughs to come. I know that, Trevor Noah doesn't need writers anymore. Um, because Trump is writing it for him every single day. I'm actually starting to watch that guy because it's funny to watch his reactions to Trump. I don't know if you know, Trevor Noah kind of took over Jon Stewart's job on Comedy Central since you mentioned them.
mhm.
And it's great to because I heard for a long time people just were getting their news from there.
Mhm.
And I didn't really, I don't know, I didn't dig Jon Stewart too much, but I figured, well, let's go see what it looks like. And it is great. He actually probably put a couple of writers out of work because the material is being presented to you every day on Twitter.
Yeah, it's
So
great.
it's beautiful.
I think this
Uh,
Saturday Alec Baldwin's supposed to get like the whole Saturday Night Live show to just do Trump. It's great. I mean,
oh,
it's at
nice.
it's great, and you have people like Ashley Judd and my girl Scarlett Johansson flipping out. It's like it's if the Book of Revelation was going to happen, but it was a comedy, it's happening, and it's okay. So don't panic. And I see that one meme that's going out on social media where they're quoting the Book of Revelation and saying Trump Pence. The trumpets, is it the trumpets of judgment? So yeah, it's the end of the world, and you know, it's a comedy. So either start laughing or go get some ammo and see how far that'll get you. See how many bullets you can eat. You know.
Yeah, I guess so. Only so many as far as I know, but every day you learn something new. It's a possibility. Daniel, we've only got 10 minutes left. I know I showed up late, but we've only got 10 minutes left. And hopefully what we talked about tonight has given people a pause for the cause when it comes to thinking for yourself and maybe taking the time to step back and laugh at some of what's happening because it is humorous. Some of it is dark humor. Some of it is just farcical, but it is humorous at its core. So I'm very glad that we can do that. I think we should. I don't know. I'm going to talk to you off the air about something.
Hmm.
There might need to be a comedy segment added to this show every week, and I think I'm going to have to involve you.
Oh
Uh,
me! Yay!
but before we go, is there anything else you wanted to add in these last 10 minutes or so?
Yeah, man. The 14th of this month, Valentine's Day, me and Chuck are going to have to work out the logistics on how we're going to launch the documentary Nutshell. If you guys, man, it'll probably be on Ochelli.com for sure, right, Chuck?
Yeah, I'm planning on making sure that there's a portal to it one way or another at the website. Not sure where it's going to be housed just yet, but that's
Yeah.
background stuff you don't need to know. You will see it coming very soon and worldwide.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
it'll be out soon. It's not going to choke an elephant. It's just like 11 minutes over 1 hour. But basically, whenever we conceptualize this, I said, Chuck, give me 5 pillars of why you do what you do. Give me your philosophy in 5 pillars. And he rattled them off, and that's essentially what the documentary Nutshell covers. It shows you like I said earlier, a behind the mic look at Chuck as a human being. But it also tells you why he does what he does. And I'm course, I'm a little biased, but I enjoyed watching the documentary myself, and I felt that it really encapsulated who you are as a human being that unfortunately most of your listeners are never, ever, ever going to know. And that sucks, man. You should really go on tour because, like whenever me and you are in each other's presence, I've wrapped my arm around you just like you're my brother because you have been and you are. You're just as much family to me as anybody who's genetically connected to me. So it was an honor to actually do this documentary. So I want everybody out there, when we do launch it, watch it, give it a review, give it a thumbs up, and put it on all your social media so that more people can hear about Ochelli Effect, because I know that all of you out there are tired of these Pied Pipers leading us off the cliff to negativity, depression, and destruction, Alex Jones. So let's give Chuck a shot. Let's get this pretty well made documentary out there for people, and so that we can make Chuck a lightning rod for positive change in our minds and our souls and our bodies and our hearts, instead of I don't know, 2 hours of talking about gun barrel rifling. I don't know, you know what I mean? That's just crazy. But other than that, as far as I go, you guys can find me at downloadedcontent.com. Latest article and video that was put out was The Consequence of Sound, Letting People Screw Up. If you go to the About page, it kind of explains what my site's about. It's more or less a serial novel, so you can start there. And you can check me out on YouTube under Downloaded Content. I have a Patreon account, so I could start producing higher quality and more consistent work. Just go to patreon.com/DLC. And, of course, pick up my novel, which I have never gotten one bad review, even though I've only gotten a few reviews. But, hey, averages, right? Everybody who's ever read it loves it. So pick up Then Came the Flood. You can do that at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, all your major bookstores, or go to downloadedcontent.com, and you can read the first 3 chapters and buy it there. So that's my commercial. Chuck, I love you. I can't wait for us to let this documentary out, man. I really, really can. I think it's going to expose a whole lot of people who've been desperately waiting to hear what you've got to say and how you say it. And if you really do hold a lot back when you're on the air, Chuck, and if people only knew the depth of your intellect, your knowledge base, your compassion, and your drive to really want to make a difference with every resource that you have, if people really understood that, they would be behind you just as much as I've tried to be behind you since I was introduced to you, man. I love you, man. You're my brother, and I see great things for you every single day, man. Just stay positive.
Well, what can I say in response to that, man? I'm just I'm doing what I can do, and I'm being myself. Whether people think sometimes it's a little bit of an act or whatever, but the only act here is exactly what you said, is that I do hold back some things because I'm trying to be as clear about what I'm doing as possible without being absorbed into myself. It's not about me at the end of the day. None of this is. It's about the positive change that can be affected by the efforts. And so I'm not a writer. Fine. I was a musician, and who knows, maybe I'll be a musician again. But this here is my craft. The talk show, the conversation, the revelation of that conversation. The interaction, the interconnectivity, and the encouragement of other people to do something other, not just accept the choices that have been presented to them, but to do something other, because we are capable of so much more. There is so much more potential that is not being utilized by every single person I see, and it's not their fault. They've been programmed. They've been overwhelmed so that they feel limited.
But
And I'm here to tell you that the limitations are an illusion.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that really is something that I've tried to get at. And I appreciate all the efforts that you put in. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Still have yet to see it. I'm looking forward to seeing it only because I want to see what you did. I want to see what you did because, look, I gave you some clay. And so you're the artist who molded it. And I'm not a filmmaker either. Who knows? Maybe I'll get a little involved at some point, but I'm not a filmmaker. This is the craft I have, and this is what I'm using. And I appreciate everything you've done. And of course, you are my brother as well, as are just about everybody who decides to listen to this show, to be honest with you. My brothers, my sisters, all of you are. Whether you hate me or not, actually, you are. And that's not to belittle the situation between you and I, the relationship you and I have. You and I have a more intense relationship. Okay.
And we haven't even started to talk about the metaphysical stuff.
Oh no, but stay tuned. We may have to go there real soon.
And Chuck, before time does run out, though, I do want to let people know. Listen, guys, and I know it sounds hawkish or whatever. Go to Ochelli.com. There is a donate button. Okay, this man, I'm going to tell you guys from firsthand experience, and I don't do this a lot, for other people, but I've seen this guy actually do his show. And you all know the whole blind JFK researcher is not just a name. He is physically handicapped. It is physically exhausting for this man to be in front of a screen for longer than 45 minutes at a time. And before his show, during his show, and well into the wee hours after his show is done, this man is struggling through to get his podcast out, to get the articles for these shows out, to do the show, to deliver it to you. He is physically in pain by the end of the night. So buy the man some coffee. That's all.
Downloaded content podcast. Download.